Hello, very good day to you. I'm Associate Professor Nigel Pang. I'm also the Assistant Dean of the Nanyang Executive Education. So very pleased to have you join us today. And also with me today, my colleagues are Don Willis.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Don.
Yes. So today I will just very quickly touch on three things because I think you are dialing in because you want to learn more about our programs, the human resource specialization. So I want to touch on three key points. First of all, what is human resource? And then secondly, what the portability of a human resource function? And then thirdly, what are the various career options if you do choose this particular specialization program? Right. So what is human resource? Now, human resource is actually a very important function for any organizations. It is actually a very strategic function in any organization because it is actually helping the organization to realize their business strategy through the people that they have. Right? So a human resource function in any organization actually work very closely with the senior leadership team in the organization to first of all identify where the business or the organization is heading, and then the next important question, where can I find the people or the talents that can actually help us realize the organization objectives? So as you can then appreciate that the human resource actually cover a wide range of important function in the organization. It starts with things that you're probably very familiar, like recruitment, and followed by setting the appropriate competitive compensation programs for the talents that they have in the organization, and then followed by performance management, and also look into the various career development programs to upskill their talents in the organization. And also, very important point nowadays is also about talent retention. So this is just some examples of the important function of a human resource. Now then the second areas that we look at is the portability of a human resource. Now unlike some other programs where you go very specialized into a very particular industry, human resource is actually needed across different industry and also needed in both profit and non-profit organization, government sectors, or even SME, right? So you can imagine that if you do choose a career or pursue a career in this function, it actually open a very wide career options for you to actually look at how can actually play a meaningful role in different organizations. So in other words, you do not necessarily have to be confined to a particular industry. What you learn or what you gain, the experience in, let's say, a healthcare sector can certainly be still relevant when you move over to, let's say, a logistic or supply chain industry, or for that matter, when you even moved into a consulting kind of industry as well. Right? Because like I mentioned, any organization do need talents for them to realize their organization objectives. So which means then brings me to the last point I want to very quickly touch on is about the career options. So as a young graduate from this kind of a specialization or this human resource specialization program, it actually opened up doors for you to think about the various career options that are made available to you. So we do have our graduate, our alumni, working in across different industry, from government sector, from non-profit organization to multinational corporations, and even small, medium enterprises as well, right? And not only that, human resource also allows you to move into a consulting organization. In other words, consulting services. So there are in the market consulting companies that specialize in human resource. Not just in recruitment, the typical headhunting that you're familiar with, but also in area like compensation and benefits, and also things like even expatriate relocation, and also things like helping companies to set up a performance appraiser. And also in recent years, very important areas is the human resource analytics, right? That means leveraging on the digital technology, informations, and so on. Because in the space of human resource, for many years, you may not be aware, for the last 20, 30 years, companies do have already invested a lot in what we call the human resource information system. HRIS. And HRIS has already matured quite significantly over the years. And the HRIS system is actually now a very important part of the business to enable a business to go deep dive into HR analytics, for business to understand or organization to understand where can I find my key talents, either within the organization or sometimes even outside of the organization. A very important source, for example, go into the LinkedIn to find the talents that you need in the market and so on. And also internally in the organization, imagine if you are working in the multinational corporation, your talent may not be residing just only in, let's say, in Singapore, but also in the region or globally as well. So where can I find the talents that I need, just in time for my business or for my organization, right? So there are consulting firms that actually go into this space, and increasingly, as I mentioned, this is a very, very important area as well. So with that, I probably just give an overview, and later on I will be very happy to take any questions that you may have. So let me at this point hand over to my colleague Dawn to share with you more details about our HR specialization program. Thank you.
Right. Now, thank you, Nigel. Now, before that, just to add on to what Nigel has mentioned, HR, as Nigel has just said, is needed everywhere, right? Any company you're in, right, you need to hire people, right? You need to train them, you need to compensate them, you need to motivate them, you need to come up pay matters, so on and so forth, right? So HR is really needed everywhere. Whether in the government sector, your private sector organizations, even in startups, you need to hire people, right? So HR is crucial. So those of you who are planning or thinking of being an entrepreneur in the future, you're going to need HR, because otherwise, who's going to hire people for you, right? Who's going to train them? Who's going to come out compensation packages for them, so on and so forth, right? So really, HR, as Nigel has just put it, doesn't tie you down to any particular sector. You can move around, and if you really don't like to stay in the same place all the time, then HR is one job that you can go across sectors, right? Okay, I think what I'll do now is that we've got a couple of questions regarding HR programs, the modules, so on and so forth coming in. And one of the questions I have here is that I did a diploma in HRM in my poly days, and if I were to come to Nanyang Business School to study HR, how is it going to be different, and do I have an advantage? Well, I would say that the very fact that you did a diploma HRM puts you at a slight advantage, but those of you who are doing your A-levels, it doesn't mean that you're a big disadvantage, because the courses start from scratch. We go from the very basics, but then what happens is that eventually we cover more than what students would have covered in their diploma days, right? And we focus a lot on hands-on as well. So not just on the technical knowledge and the data, but how do we derive a compensation package, for example, right? So these details are important. And so while it does give you an advantage, those of you who are doing your A-levels, don't feel that you're going to be at a disadvantage, because we will start from scratch and we will build your competencies. Because at the end of the day, the aim of our module is to make your job ready. When you graduate, you'll be ready to tackle the HR market and perform as a HR professional, right? Now, on this note, I'd like to call upon a HR student, Ashley, to share his views on, because he studied HR in the poly, right? So maybe he can give his perspectives on this.
Right. Hello, everyone. I'm Ashley, and I used to specialize in human resource and finance in Temasek Polytechnic. So to answer some of your, concerns, having specialized human resource in poly does give me an advantage, because I can look at things quicker and analyze because of the foundation that I had in poly. But for JC students, not to worry, because there are certain modules in NTU that cover the base and foundation knowledge that you are required to have. And as we progress deeper into the specialization itself, we'll touch on different modules that will cover things like compensation and benefits, how you're going to ensure that the policies that you make will be motivating and engaging and satisfying to the employees itself. So not to worry. And I believe Prof. Nigel just now has mentioned a little bit about analytics. So in order to understand how you are going to do analytics, how you're going to analyze the data, you need to understand the foundation knowledge that we will be learning in our course as well. So yes, handing back to the Prof.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, at this point, I also like to introduce Roy. Roy is also our current HRC students. But I would also like to maybe have Roy to share, just like you many years ago, right? At this juncture, why do you, decided to join Nanyang Business School to take on this program? Maybe Roy, over to you.
Yep, so my name is Roy, and I'm currently a Year 2 student majoring in Human Resource Consulting in NBS. So with regards to why I chose to pursue my kind of human resource specialization in NBS, I think there are 3 key reasons. So the first one is that I think all of you will know that NBS curriculum is actually 3 years. So actually this gives me like the flexibility to think about what I want to do within that 3 to 4 years. Because normally after I graduate, when I finish my A-levels, my peers will actually be doing 4 years of university. So for me, I actually have that flexibility to decide, okay, maybe I want to do a semester-long internship, or maybe I want to do a part-time internship, or like how do I plan my curriculum such that in the end, right, we're actually not really shortchanged in the 3 years that we take our human resource modules and all the other business modules that we take. So that's definitely one, the three-year curriculum that's beneficial for us. And the second one would actually be how the course, right, actually it's called Human Resource Consulting, right? So there's actually an increasing importance for human resource professionals to act as consultants to the business that they're working for. So really, it's not just, I think we need to move away from that like HR is administrative kind of mindset, but really how can HR provide strategy to the business? So the name of the course itself was really very enticing. I connected with the importance of that, and I think also at that time, really, it gives me an options for career also. Like maybe I want to think of doing HR in-house for a company, or maybe I want to like do a consulting career. Like it caters to these different tracks as well. So that was really beneficial. And I think the last one would really be before I came into NBS, I actually did do my research on the different universities and try to see what is it about the HR curriculum is like, how it's like in NBS basically. So one thing I realized was that it's a lot of project-based, and actually there's this thing called class participation as well, where we are required to respond in classes. And I thought it was really very useful for me, because I'm seeing the increasing importance in organizations for us to be able to work in teams. So really knowing how to work with different types of people, but at the same time knowing how to speak up as well, to not just stay silent and not contribute ideas when we actually have those ideas, but knowing how to voice them out and voice them out effectively. So yeah, those are the 3 key reasons why I picked NBS. Back to you, Prof.
Thank you very much, Roy.
Thank you, Roy.
Yeah. So maybe I will just add on to what Roy have mentioned. Certainly when you come to the Nanyang Business School to study, it's really not just about learning about human resource specialization program, the content itself. But more importantly, we want to provide our student a holistic education experience. So what do I mean by holistic? Right? Other than learning the specialization courses, you probably have already read in the paper that NTU, we have also restructured our curriculum by offering our students more broad-based kind of elective courses. Right? So just remember that you're not here just to learn HR, but you're here to learn a lot more other relevant skill knowledge program. So things like digital literacy, communication skills, and even entrepreneurship, being how to actually start a business and so on. So these are the programs that we are actually encouraging our students to get the kind of exposure. The other thing is that I think Roy mentioned about Nanyang Business School, we offer a 3 years direct honors program. So some of you may be worried that, these 3 years, am I able to cope with the modules, the load, and so on? But certainly it is intense. But at the same time, we are not saying that you have to graduate within 3 years or else you're out of the system. No. Why I say that is because we also encourage our students in recent years to think about taking even a gap year. What is this gap year? That means you take a year off to work in an organization, to do something unique, to start a business, and then come back to finish your degree. So these are the various options we actually offer to our students. Gone are the days where university program is very structured, very stifling. It's not a handcuff, but rather it's a handrail to guide you in your learning journey. Yeah. So with that, I'll just hand back to Don.
Yeah, so following up on what Nigel says, right now, gap year gives the perception that you're going to take some time off to travel, holidays, right? But in COVID-19, we can't travel, right? So, but generally, a gap year really means you take on more internships, you gain more practical experience, hands-on experience, work experience, so on and so forth, right? And this makes you more job ready by the time you graduate, right? So yes, although it's a 3 year direct honors degree, it doesn't mean that we're going to cram everything together and you manage your time, right? Now, taking leave from what Nigel just mentioned earlier on, one of the questions I have, which I'd like to answer also, is a burning question, with automation, machine learning, robotics, AI, so on and so forth, right? Will I become obsolete if I study HR? Now, my take on this is that it's not only HR, but every job runs the danger of becoming obsolete. So how do we prevent ourselves from becoming obsolete? And this is what Nigel mentioned earlier on, right? It's about focusing on digital literacy, focusing on the soft skills, things like communication skills, interpersonal skills, working with others, so on and so forth, right? And these are all things that we focus on in NBS. So we don't just teach the hard skills about accountancy, banking and finance, financial management, so on and so forth, but we focus a lot on the soft skills. We focus a lot on digital literacy so that at the end of the day, after you graduate, you become more holistic. Right? So it's not about fearing automation and AI, it's about acquiring all these skills as well so that you can complement whatever you're learning. And as far as HR is concerned, soft skills like communication, working with others, interpersonal skills, digital literacy skills, so on and so forth, complements HR. And so it makes you a more holistic graduate, okay, by the time you leave NBS and start going to the workplace.
Yeah, maybe also at this time, I also would like to invite Roy back again to perhaps share a bit more about your career aspiration, right? Very soon you're going to graduate. What do you intend to do after that?
Right, so thanks for the question. So for myself, right, I do definitely want to pursue a career in HR. I think the thing about, like what I mentioned just now, the flexibility for us to pursue, if you're looking at in-house HR, you're looking at the consulting area where it's got to do with like human capital and all that, we actually have the flexibility to do all those. But personally for myself, I'm pretty set on pursuing a career in HR in-house. So that means like working for an organization. And I think one thing that I really want to do is kind of like rotate around the different HR departments. So this gives me like experience to work in like the recruitment and selection area, the compensation benefits area, the training and development area, how to engage employees to make them productive. So actually in the NBS curriculum, we do cover all of these. So it's really useful stuff that I'll be able to share with my workplace. Like in fact, I just did an internship not long ago where literally what I studied in school, I was able to bring it to the meetings and discussions, and it was really beneficial. So I think seeing that, right, I think I really want to bring what I learned to the to where I work in HR in future. So in terms of industry, I think the profs mentioned just now that you have literally like almost any choice you want. You can do like banking, IT. You want to talk about like you want to work for the FMCG companies or retail or F&B. You actually can. They all need HR anyway, so you can actually work for those. But yeah, I think for me, I really want to pursue a career in HR in-house and rotate and hopefully progress in my career as I move along.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roy.
Yeah. Okay. So the other thing I'd like to just very quick sharing the development in this HR industry in recent years. So you may or may not be aware now because of even pre-COVID and current COVID period, organizations are actually very stretched, right? Stretched in terms of not just having to manage the bottom line, manage the business, but stretched also in terms of finding ways to actually help them to so-called maximize the productivities in the organization. So increasingly, those companies that have the more progressive one, they have already, even pre-COVID, invested a lot of the resources and so on to develop their workforce and so on. So companies like this are able to ride the wave much better. For organizations that are less prepared. Now, why I say that is because you probably heard in the news there are some companies that got themselves into trouble with the law, right? When I say the law, I mean the employment law, right? And this is where HR must play a very important custodian role to safeguard the interests of the organization, know the law very well, so that to advise the business what to do, what not to do, right? And because of that, also the Ministry of Manpower have recently, or not recently, about 2016, started this journey called the Human Resource Certification, right? So they want to signal to the industry, to the employment landscape, that you actually do need someone qualified and certified to do HR work, right? HR should not be regarded as something that anybody can do, right? It is a profession that requires a very strong, grounded learning, right? Which is why we have students going through that 3 years program to learn what is HR. And as a result, I think over the last few years, we have actually seen a lot of people going through the certification. And with the certification, then also give them the so-called the extra recognitions for them to move across a different industry, right? So this will continue to be relevant and important. So in other words, if you do join our programs, the programs train you, prepare you well for this certification journey. And then later on, when you go into the industry, whether it's an in-house or consulting world, that kind of a program will actually set you for success. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Nigel. I just want to add on to what Nigel said because this was another question which we had, right? So my sister is in HR. She did not even study HR. So does it mean that I can get a HR job, without having to study HR, right? I think in the past, maybe that was possible. But as Nigel has just mentioned, right, there is going to be a move to regulate HR, right? Regulate the practice of HR. So in order to be able to get into HR and to move along a career path in HR, right, to the apex, whether you're CHRO, so on and so forth. Firstly, you need a degree in HR to be recognized, and the next step really is to go through a certification process, right? And now these are all in the pipeline, but I can assure you that in the years to come, in the near future, it's going to be very much regulated. So if you do not have a degree in HR, it's not going to be so easy to get into a HR job. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for some of you probably also want to know what exactly will a student experience going through this program. So maybe at this point, I'd like to invite Ashley to share a bit more about, what does it, what's your experience so far studying the HR program here in Nanyang Business School? And also maybe share a bit more about student life in general in NTU. Yeah.
Okay, sure. So, hi everyone. So, the experience in the modules in NTU HR so far has been really fulfilling because our assessment methods are really very application-based. So even for your quiz or for your project, it's really application to the case itself. So, in a very volatile business environment, uncertain business environment, there will be different cases and situations that the company has to face, and there is no one policy that fits all. So it is your job, as a consultant, as a strategic business partner of HR, to really identify what are some of the key issues within the organization that you want to tackle, that the policy is suitable for the organization itself. And I think all the assessment methods in the module so far has been really helpful in that. Even for my internship with an accountancy firm, I was doing HR over there. So it was during the period of COVID, and I was fully working from home. And that was the period where most staff are facing low motivation because there is no specific office hours anymore. They are required to work a lot of overtime hours. So what are the types of benefits that we can push to them, or what are some of the initiatives that we can initiate to increase their employee motivation? So this varies according to different companies itself. And a little bit more about student life in school. So I'm actually also part of the Human Resource Consulting Club as well. So what we do actually is plan for activities that will further value add to your experience and knowledge about human resource industry as well. So maybe just to share a little bit about our one of our events, which is like the alumni networking event. So this is where we bring in alumni that is already in the industry, come back to share with us what is the experience they have in the company, how has some of the modules in school is really very relevant in their current job context as well. And most importantly, how are we going to face such an uncertain business environment in the near future, especially with the pandemic situation. Yep. With that, I'll pass the time now back to the professors. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ashley. Yeah, so really HR is a very exciting discipline or function. I can probably also just share a bit of my personal experience. I was a former human resource director in an organization, as well as the general manager leading a HR consulting company in Asia Pacific. So what I always find very rewarding, not financially, but more the personal satisfactions of helping people to realize their potential, right? Sometimes you may think that by managing people out of the organization is a very cruel thing to do, right? But if you do it well as a HR profession, you are actually giving the person a career guidance that maybe this organization may not be a suitable place for that individual to perform. But moving to another organization, that person can actually excel much better, right? So you're doing a very meaningful work helping people to realize their potential, sometimes not within the organization, but outside of moving to another organization. This is just one example. Another example in my HR career is that COVID-19 now that we're experiencing, you see a lot of company downside, retrenchment, and so on. So unfortunately, I also went through that kind of experience many years back, when we went through another crisis in the industry. So as a HR person, our role is to be the custodian of the employee's welfare. So in the retrenchment situation, how then can you actually help the affected individual, the employees, to have a dignified exit, right? So that the business can still continue to run, the individual affected by the retrenchment get a very good package, and at the same time, the whole experience is not something that the person feel ashamed of, right? And also helping the person to find another job by offering career placement service, for example, right? So this is something that when you go into the HR profession, you actually get to touch a lot of people at the individual level, at the group level, and certainly at the organization level, because you also set the policy for the company as well, right? So I think it's a very meaningful role to be in, going to the HR function. Yeah.
Thanks, Nigel. I just want to add on to what Nigel just said, because one of the key roles of HR is to be the champion of the employees, right? And in fact, traditionally, this was one of the main roles of HR, right? But increasingly over the years, HR also plays an important role of being a business partner. Now, bosses, okay, whether you're CEOs or your presidents or chairman, if you watch K-drama, you know the hierarchy. They don't want HR to be a HR professional working in a business. What they want you to be, first and foremost, is a business partner. So you're a business partner who specializes in HR, meaning that you play an important role in the success of the business as well. You are able to better advise the business how HR can be used, can be leveraged on to achieve business success. Yeah, and to that end, in the HRC course in NBS, we don't focus only on HRC skills, but we focus a lot on consulting skills. So as a HR practitioner, how do you advise the business, whether in the private sector, public sector, so on and so forth? How do you better advise the business to leverage on HR strategies so that you can better achieve your profits, reduce costs, so on and so forth, which is the bottom line of our organizations, right? And basically that is emphasis of our course. I've had questions about, what are the course modules like? Do we have a choice whether we can choose certain modules, so on and so forth? I'm going to invite Ashley in a while to highlight on that, but I'd just like to say that there are some core modules that you need to do, and by the rest of the modules, you have a choice. You can pick and choose which are those that you are more interested in. For example, total rewards, employment law, so on and so on, right? So maybe I hand over to Ashley to highlight a little bit on this.
Okay, everyone. So we have about 8 different types of human resource modules in NTU itself, and we are actually required to take up 6 of the modules. Of course, there are some modules itself that require some prerequisites of other modules. So for example, if you want to take on employment law modules, you have to get a minimum grade of B or B+ for your business law that you'll be taking in year 1. So actually, there are a lot of modules that can be linked to human resource as well. So take for example, during my internship, so I actually utilized my knowledge that I learned from statistics and apply it into my HR analytics, where I'm tasked to analyze, the diversity portfolio within the organization itself. So there are actually a lot of key skills that you can bring from other modules into HR itself, because ultimately we are business students. all the theories that we have learned and all the content that we have learned can be applied even within HR. Most importantly, you need to, like Prof. Don has mentioned, you need to be a business partner, for the company. You cannot just be thought of as a cost center itself for the organization. You are actually pushing the company to achieve more profits by motivating our existing staff and making sure that they achieve a high level of productivity. So in general, I think all the courses that is offered in NTU Human Resource Consulting is really, really very relevant in today's market. Yeah, thank you. Back to
Thank you. Maybe also I would like to invite Roy to perhaps share, beside HR courses that you have studied, talk about the other modules that you have actually picked up, you have learned.
Yeah, sure. So basically, other than HR, right, in year one, we're actually required to take a whole list of like business modules that actually there's only one that seems most HR related. So to list some examples, as Ashley mentioned, we're required to take statistics. We are required to take this module called technological innovations and development. We're required to take, like he said also, business law, accounting, all these things. And you would think like, what's the relevance of this to HR? But really, similar experience when I went into my internship, right? I was able to apply all these different like you would say business functions to HR itself. So say for example, marketing, right? What marketing and HR, but really if you talk about how you want to brand your company, how you want to brand your organization for employees to see, you need some form of marketing skills as well, right? And even stuff like the IT module that I took, we learned stuff like Excel and Tableau, which is what HR professionals now actually need to learn and upgrade themselves in when they go into the workplace as well. So some other modules that I take that seems more fun. Currently in this semester, I'm taking a module called badminton. So it's really just called badminton, where we go and play badminton, we train our badminton skills, and we like just play with different people. So there are things like that you can take as well. They always cater to us a set of, we call it unrestricted electives. So it's electives that you can basically take any modules you want in NTU. So it's not just limited to business modules, but like I said, badminton, you want to look at some communication or social science modules that you're interested in, you can take those modules as well. So yeah, those are some of the different modules and experiences I've had while in NBS.
Great,
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roy.
Maybe I'll just share also a bit about our philosophy, right? When it comes to how we assess student performance, right? In any kind of programs. So in Nanyang Business School, we embrace this thing called Assessment of Learning, AOL. Under the AOL, actually every module, there is a certain assessment rubrics. Now, why I mention this is because one of the very important rubrics is teamwork. Now, this is rubrics that we assess students across different programs. Now, why this is important? Because we want students to learn how to work effectively as a team, whether you are the team members or you are the team leader. And you learn, when you are stepping up as a team leader, how do you actually get your fellow students to work together to finish a project, for example. And if you are the team members, how do you actually contribute effectively, despite the fact that you have many other modules that you need to juggle and so on. This kind of skill set is something that go beyond just a classroom assessment, because when you step into the real world, every day you are being assessed. Are you an effective team members, or can you be a good team leader? If you are, that's why promotion comes in, right? What we are training our students, like I said, is beyond just the curriculum, the content, but also more the other very important aspect in terms of working with people, the communication skills that Don mentioned. We also have a course on negotiation skills, right? And presentation skills is almost, I'm sure Roy and Ashley will appreciate that almost every programs, they have to stand in front of the class or sometimes to an external party to give a presentation. And also the HRC club, the Human Resource Consulting Club that we have, we are actually the university that organized the annual Human Resource Case Competition. That means we actually invite all the universities in Singapore to participate in these annual competitions. And we invite panel judges from the industry to actually see how the student pitch a particular HR topics effectively in front of them. So these are the kind of exposure we want our students to get, so that when they step into the real world working, they are already there or almost there. Yeah. Okay.
Hey, thanks, Nigel. Well, just to add on to what Nigel has mentioned, besides teamwork, which is crucial in the workplace, right? Because you're not going to be working alone. You're going to need to work with others in a team, so interpersonal skills are important. Another big aspect of life in Nanyang Business School is ability to stand up, to speak, to present your points. Now, it can be scary to quite a number of us who are so-called introverts, to be able to stand up in front of your peers and to voice opinions, so on and so forth. But I do assure you, in Nanyang Business School here, we create a very safe environment for you to be able to do so. So as you stand up and you speak and you find that, hey, it's okay, it's not that scary, and you start getting used to it, by the time you graduate, it becomes second nature to you. Because as Nigel has mentioned, using his words, when you get out into the real world, the working world, this is what's expected of you. You can't just be keeping quiet, not sharing your views, not sharing your thoughts, because as a HR practitioner, you must be able to share your perspectives from a HR angle and how that will have an impact on the business. Right? And something else which Nigel has mentioned, and I think Roy and Ashley alluded to this as well, to be a competent HR professional today, it's not just enough to have HR skills and soft skills. You need other skills as well. Managing change. COVID is a very big wake-up lesson for everybody that change is the only constant, right? We can't be doing things the same way, right? So the ability to understand change, to manage change, to motivate people to manage change are skills that are being taught outside the HR program, but they are being taught as part of the NBS curriculum. Things like strategic thinking, how do you plan at a strategic level? How do you influence? How do you come up with goals, strategies, so on and so forth? Critical thinking, the ability to analyze, to use logic, to use evidence and not just mere opinions, okay, to critique proposals. These are all things that are taught outside the HRC course, but they complement what the HR professional needs, right?
I'm mindful of the time. So I guess before we wrap up, there's one last point I want to mention is that learning or education this is not your final stop, I guarantee you, right? It's a learning journey, right? And for Nanyang Business School, if you do join us, we have all these things called the alumni credit. So what does it mean? So that means after you graduate from Nanyang Business School, you can still continue to come back and do your studies. Just last year, we have launched the mini masters for our young graduate who just graduated last year, including perhaps this year as well, for them to perhaps maybe before they, or even when they are working, they can still continue to study, to learn, right? So the mini master, the idea behind it is, right, it's not a full master, but you can actually pick a few specialization. So we have mini master in general management, we have mini masters in marketing, we have mini masters in business analytics, mini master in finance, and so on. So this will actually prepare you, right, to, if you have interest, who knows, because you may not end up just doing HR, you may end up doing finance, doing marketing, and so on. So to give our students that options as well, right? So this is our philosophy as well, very aligned to what the Skills Future initiatives, that our graduate should always think about continuous learning, right? And mini masters is kind of is a sweet spot to offer the programs for our young graduates, in addition to all the other masters, the MBAs, and so on. Yeah.
Right, Nigel.
Okay. So with that, maybe not any final comments?
No, thank you for coming for the session. I believe if you have other questions, you can always post it, and we will come by and try to answer those questions along the way. Yeah.
Right. So thank you very much for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you.